I'm pressing buttons and that means something's going wrong. I am Ed Fries, and I'm joined by my tag team partner, the one and only Astrid Pizarro. Astrid, how you doing?
I'm better now. Oh, jeez. Sorry.
Right.
Just knowing the timing makes me laugh. How are you?
I'm good. I was like, oh, I have all the buttons done. I've done everything right. I had it looping. Whoops. One loop too many. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are talking Spring Breakin. God, I hate that name. It never gets any better, no matter how many times I say it. Ironically, it was a good show. It was a very good show, with one major exception. NXT. I plead with you. When you start a match, give it more than 2 minutes before you send it to a picture-in-picture.
Too many commercials. Too many.
I'm okay with the amount of commercials. You really don't have a control on that. But can we space them better so that we don't have 3 back-to-back backstage promos and then a match start and we get 2 minutes of a match and then go to commercial? I did like how we had no commercials where we lost the action. Every commercial during a match was at least picture-in-picture.
Yeah.
Thank you, AEW. It's one thing we can thank them for. Because of the deal that AEW has, NXT and USA have done the same thing, because you can afford to do it on USA, because with NXT, the ad rates aren't as high. Whereas on Raw and SmackDown, not so much. No J-Light. Not even acknowledging that one on the screen. So the show opens with one of their fantastic video packages where they have all the people who aren't on the show getting a payday by filming some kind of a party scene. Normally, this would be hosted by Briggs and Jensen. Unfortunately, Briggs and Jensen are on the card this year, so sadly, we got stuck with, I want to say it was Odyssey Jones on the mic at the beginning doing the grilling. I didn't take a bunch of notes during this. I was trying to figure out my Hulu because my Hulu Live TV decided it didn't want to work on my television. I did see that when they were talking about one of the women's matches, we had Lash Legend and we had Lola Vice and Jakara and
Elektra.
And Elektra. I think that was the 4, right?
Yep.
Whole bunch of people in there.
And Casey Square's alive.
Fine.
Oh, and Enofe and Blade, that was another one that was like surprising. So I was like, oh, they're here. I feel like I haven't seen them in a while.
Enofe and Blade have been stuck on whatchamacallit? Level Up. Yeah. They were on Level Up last week. I actually watched Level Up last week. Yeah. Anywho. Hello, Daphne. But this show was pretty good. Overall, this was a pretty good show. NXT had their crap together tonight. They were like, oh, look, we're going to go ahead and do a bunch of matches that we're going to build with a week. Fine. We'll build them within a week, but guess what we're going to do? We're going to make sure that that week of builds to some really fun matches. And that's exactly what we got. Pardon me, I'm hitting extra buttons. But we started with a nice hot opener. Hello, Robala. Thank you for joining us. We will get to the NXT title match and why it wasn't the main event and how NXT might be, unfortunately, regretting that decision at the end of the show. We had the family taking on Pretty Deadly in the opening match here. I thought with the lack of a North American title match, this was absolutely the right match to start with. What did you think, Astrid?
Yeah, definitely. I felt the same way. I was doubting which match will open the show, and then once it started and the action kept going, I knew this was the great choice for an opener here. I love the action they have with both teams here, and I love also there was one part that Tony and Stax, they have each other opponents and they're like making moves on and then they switch and they keep going and they do those little switches here and there that they did. I think it was really fun from them the way they did that, and the ending in itself I think it was pretty really well done as well with Distinguisher and like switching the tag teams and putting Pretty Deadly on the trunk.
One of the things I wanted to talk about in this match is they did a really good job of going silly early and getting more serious as the match went on. And I liked that. Like, we had all the funny beach party accessories outside the ring. We have the spot where Tony D'Angelo and them throw Pretty Deadly into the pool, the little kiddie pool with the balls in it. And then Stacks goes ahead and takes the boogie board and does an elbow drop with the boogie board on him. Like, that's fun. Wrestling's supposed to be fun. But that was the end of fun. At one point, they were like, all right, fun and game's over. Moving on. And they did a really good job moving on to the really more interesting stuff. They had the spilled milk on the outside to go ahead and get it going. And then they throw Stacks in the back. And I'm like, oh. Now, what's Stacks? Because I had a feeling that Stacks wasn't done at that point. I'm like, what is Stacks going to do when that door opens that he's going to be able to do to really put this over the top? And they surprised me because I wasn't thinking fire extinguisher. I was thinking the crowbar. I was thinking a whole bunch of things, but I wasn't thinking fire extinguisher. I thought it was a creative finish to be able to do that. And the guy who's blinded is acting blind and walking around randomly, which is what Pretty Deadly does best. And then they put the healthy guy into the trunk first. And then the blind guy gets hit with bada bing, bada boom through the table on the outside. And then he gets shoved in, and we get the big win. And then Tony and Stacks, being Tony and Stacks, decided to just drive off with the car. If there wasn't a sign blinking over the heads of Pretty Deadly after this match saying, main roster bound, the rest of the show is going to tell you where they're headed.
I feel like the only thing that obviously we got it at the ending, but I feel like it would have been cool if the trunkiness of the car, somebody driving the car will arrive on Raw and SmackDown, and they have the trunk open. They're like still like, what's happening, kind of thing, while they're getting drafted. Like, that would have been fun, but I think like what happened later, it kind of ruined that for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, later on that obviously changes, and it is what it is, and we deal with that as we go. But I thought it was interesting that that's the decision that they went with. Yeah. After this match, we had a backstage promo with Tiffany Stratton coming in, arriving at the arena, looking like $1 million. I mean, she was A+ on the outfit. But I like this sometimes because at least it's not like 5-10 minutes before the match and they're like, oh, look who's arriving, earlier today. I like when they show them arriving right about the time the show starts. I could see Tiffany Stratton being that little bit of diva who's like, I'm going to show up right before the show starts. Mm-hmm. Or maybe like right into the first match because I know I'm not on. I can see her on what they call Bret Hart time. There's a very funny story where if you ask people, what time did Bret Hart arrive to the arena? The answer would be, what time is his segment? And minus half an hour. Because Bret Hart was apparently notorious sometimes for showing up right before he needed to do what he needed to do. We get an Andre Chase sitting in a chair, looking pretty down, looking out of it. And we get Duke Hudson trying to pump him up. And all I could think here is Duke Hudson's going to try to take over Andre Chase University.
Yep.
And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And the tweet from Andre Chase later on tells us a whole lot more. Thank you to Sean Cena for pointing that out to me today, by the way. Thank you very much for pointing out that tweet. I had missed it. We then get to the match between Braun Breaker and Andre Chase. And wow, this was a squash. Oh, hold on. Parrish is coming in. Heart time is an actual thing in Alberta. And yes, it's because most hearts are known to be laid. I like Duke Hudson. Don't get me wrong. Duke Hudson is gold. I think there's a lot to mine from the character and the ability of Duke Hudson. However, they haven't hit the nail on the head yet with a character that totally works for him in my mind.
Yep.
I want them to do it because in ring he's really good. But not quite yet have they nailed his character. And I don't think running Chase U as a heel Chase U is the right idea with Andre Chase gone, if that's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. We do have, after that, Braun wins with a signer recliner. Andre Chase takes a while, but taps out. Mm-hmm. Nothing happens with Duke Hudson, and I'm like, oh, that's a shame. I was really hoping Braun was going to beat up Duke. Because, again, I kind of want to see that match between Duke Hudson and Braun Breaker. Especially this heel Braun Breaker. Yep. Talk to me. What did you think of Braunberg tonight, as I dubbed him, because of his entire black attire? What did you think of Braunberg?
Not only that, but like thinking back on like what you said, because when the promo happened before, it was a promo between Duke and Braun. So it's like you're hoping this kind of happens after the match ends somehow, and it doesn't. It's like I was thinking something was gonna get hint at it, but nothing. No, I feel like I feel like this heel Braun Breaker is what we needed this whole time. Like he shows so much more personality, and like I like him coming out of nowhere and just spearing people and being like doing crazy stuff. And I feel like something that we didn't get from him before, and I feel like we're getting more from him, like in the character that we ever have. It's like this should have happened a while ago. Just embrace it, because look at him now. I feel like now he just almost feels like he's being himself in a way. So just like I feel like it's easier for him in that sense of it. So I like how it was tonight more than anything.
He carried himself with such an aura tonight. And it's the kind of thing I think he can put off. He's a badass. He's got enough ring stability and stamina to have good matches with pretty much anybody. He's like, I jokingly call him Braunberg because he's built. He can do the Goldberg moveset. But this guy isn't Goldberg. Like, this guy can have a 10-15 minute match. Heel Braun Breaker is world champion material. I agree. I mean, face Braun Breaker for a long time was a good world champion for NXT. I don't think it would have worked on the main roster as a world champion, but I can see heel Braun Breaker working as a world champion. I can see after this heel run going back to face and doing very well with it on the main roster. There's a lot to be mined with Goldberg. No, there's nothing left to be mined with Goldberg. With Braun Breaker. I've started confusing myself. The two have become one. Braunberg.
Fusion.
Paris says Braun should have turned during his title run and it would have made that reign warm. I agree. There was a moment in time at the end of that title run and that match between Mello and him and Mello, which we'll talk about later, which we're going to apparently see at Battleground. So disappointing.
Hey, you're gonna watch Mello. You can't say anything.
I'm so happy to see Mello in his element. I just wish it wasn't Braun Breaker. That being said, I think the build to this match is going to be that much better because we're going to be seeing a heel Braun Breaker heading up there. We have HPC. Yeah, I always get that name right and I just screwed it up. HPC 2 Sweet. Astrid, can you translate? I think I know it, but I just want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Just me on my indie.
Okay, so it is my God, my indie. Okay.
Yeah.
Should have turned on. I would have loved to see anybody turn heel on Tyler Bate. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
No need Tyler Bate. After this, we get the Trick Mello promo, to which I put in my notes for the main event. Because I wholeheartedly believed in my heart of hearts that the men's title match was going to be the main event. We get Mackenzie backstage, and Ilya's coming in, and she tries to get ready to talk to Ilya Dragunov. And then Ilya is attacked by Dijak. This is a fantastic beatdown. Yes. Ilya gets next to nothing into it, but is constantly fighting, which makes him look tougher. And even when they're about to throw the big, huge, heavy gate thing on him, he's constantly fighting, which makes him feel like it's an even fight, even though he's gotten his butt kicked. It makes Dijak feel that much bigger, even though in reality he's not that much bigger than Ilya Dragunov. Because Ilya's a surprisingly tall, big lad, but Dijak's just another level. Mm-hmm. I love seeing them put some respect on the name of Dijak. He just had his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Dijak. We don't have to mention all those litany of other wrestlers who people think are much better than you because they're not. I mean, that who's heard of that John Cena guy anyways?
Yeah.
What did you think here of the beatdown with Ilya and Dijak?
Yeah, I feel like it was more. It almost looked more realistic too from the angle they had it of like Dragunov just arriving. So like it doesn't look very set up in that aspect either, which I liked. And having Mackenzie come in and try to interview him is like it looks more natural in that aspect. And having him come out of nowhere the way he did, like you said, using the gate to try to stop Dragunov too. I feel like it was well done, and I wish I would do something like this. That seems it looks a little bit more natural rather than just like the force that they use, how forced they use them usually. But yeah, this was a lot better.
NXT's done a lot of good work with trying something new and seeing what sticks. And more often than not, a lot of these things don't work. But at least they're trying something. They're not being the stereotypical, this is how this happens. This is how this happens to happen. When people are watching TV, they're just looking at the people as opposed to watching the TV. Like, we don't need to see what's happening on the TV. Let me just look at, like, we'll say, for example, later on, Wesley. Wesley's looking at the TV, watching the promo from Gulak and them, getting ready to watch the main event. And he comes up to him. What is he doing? He's staring at a television. And you put the camera right over the top of the TV, so you're looking directly into Wesley's eyes. Like, it's simple storytelling, but it just makes things so much more bearable to watch. We got Lyra and Cora. Now, Astrid. Astrid.
I know it's your favorite matchup tonight. I know. Come on. I know you loved it. I know you really did.
I thought they tried a lot of good things in this match. The key word and focus on tried.
But
they had zero chemistry. Lyra Valkyria looked like she's in the first week of wrestling school for a lot of the things that she did. Which is sad considering she was on NXT UK for, I want to say, 8 months or more. She's not new. Like, she's been doing this a while. She's young, but she's not new. I want to say she's been doing it longer than Cora.
Probably.
Neither of these women felt ready for the big stage that this match had. I thought it was a little bit bigger of a stage than they needed. It could just be a one-off. It could just be a one-off bad night for the two ladies. Everybody has a bad night. But it felt like they kept stopping right before a spot to make sure the spot went off. It seemed like there was a couple of times where they miscommunicated what spot was coming next. Lyra missed a few spots, just completely blew a few spots, it looked like. My dislike for the character of Lyra Valkyria is well known on this show. But the wrestler is relatively a talented wrestler. Well, I think she has one of the worst finishers in all of wrestling, because she has one of the weakest looking splashes off the top rope that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Her wrestling, I've never really questioned how good she is. Tonight, sadly, made me do that. Melba, hello. Thank you for joining us. What did you think of this match? You're the women's wrestling expert. You have the ladies wrestling showcase. You have lady wrestling showcase. What did you think of this?
I'm torn about it because like you said, there were spots of like I was asking you what the move was because I wasn't sure what to even call it. But there was a point of like Lyra's like kind of, I don't want to say like a cartwheel, but something similar to like bounce off the ropes. So you're thinking she's gonna go through and like do it again, but no, she stops, and then I think she kicked Cora, and it looked terrible because it just looked like she had momentum, and then she just stopped it, and it looked terrible, like the way it looked on screen at least. And I feel like there were moments that she like slowed down where she shouldn't have, and it just like, no, I'm like, you were doing so great up until now. Yeah, I feel like it wasn't bad, but it definitely could have been better. Like it definitely, like it was like half and half. And I feel like even the crowd was like, I don't want to say quiet, but it was like they were like so. So even that didn't help either with like the environment either, because I'm like, do I want to see this if you guys don't want to see this? Because you guys are not reacting much to it either. It was mostly like just Cora sucks kind of chance, and so they weren't really cheering for Lyra either in that aspect. But yeah, it was like it's one of those matches that I wish they would have done better. it wasn't great. I'm glad it was more towards the beginning of the show, so we could kind of forget about it and then see the rest of the show. But yeah, it wasn't great. Sorry, I wish it
Yeah.
had been.
Go ahead.
No, I'm like, I wish it would have been better than what it was.
Okay. It definitely got quickly forgotten as we go to the championship contenders coming out to make their entrance for what I thought was the main event, which turned out to be the crossover, the holdover segment between the 8 and 9 o'clock hour. And we're going to have the NXT title match. But first, Tony D'Angelo and Stax are driving down the road and Pretty Deadly are making noise in the trunk. So Stax goes out to the back of the trunk and just slams the trunk a couple times. And they quickly quiet down and they continue driving. Not much to it. It's the whole story throughout the rest of the night of getting ready to dump Pretty Deadly in the lake with the fishes. Again, at this point, that trunk should have had a glowing light-up sign with arrows pointed on it saying headed to the main roster. Mello versus Grayson Waller. We have HPC Too Sweet coming in saying gold. Tony, that's the thing. Yeah. Stax and Tony did really good throughout the night on these little segments. And I hope we see more of these going forward. Like, I like the idea of any time something bad happens in a storyline with Tony D'Angelo, people just get tossed to the river. When the other guy got cut from the PC and got fired, they just throw him in the river. When Pretty Deadly gets called up, they get thrown in a river.
Now they're not gonna get called up. They're dead now. Oh, they're actually pretty deadly.
They're always pretty deadly. Grayson Waller and Carmelo Hayes. Any ill will that the crowd had for that last match was quickly erased away when Grayson Waller made his entrance for this match. You can tell the difference between a storyline. Yes. Rest in peace, Two Dimes, a.k.a. Cole Carter. He's found a nice home on, I believe, AEW Dark, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think he's on TV, but I think he's on Dark a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can quickly tell the difference between a crowd who hates somebody for being a heel and just wants Cora Jade to be off our television screen and out of the way in front of them. Because they're chanting Cora sucks with almost no enthusiasm. When Grayson Waller comes out, even the boos have enthusiasm. The cheers have enthusiasm. And this match did not disappoint. Before we get to that, we have Mark Talks Wrestling popping in. Thank you for joining me, Mark. We have I Want to See Pretty Deadly versus Seth Rollins. And there are so many things I want to see with Pretty Deadly. I want to see them run into Seth Rollins. I do think that would be great. I want to see them instantly in a feud where they just absolutely destroy Maximum Male Models. And I think you instantly get rid of MMM and you repackage the two of them and you take Maxine and you give them a heel manager who doesn't need to talk, who just needs to be eye candy and be out there to help them cheat because she's the perfect person for all of that. She doesn't need to cut promos. They can cut their own promos. They're really good at it. But you know what she can bring to them? Another level of cheating that will make them great heels on the main roster. I think she fits the gimmick.
No.
They're essentially Maximum Male Models, but better and properly booked already. So just keep doing that with her as part of their team. If they're amazing saying, dude, MMN versus Pretty Deadly would be funny, but fire. I agree. By the way, Massey and Mansoor are fantastic individual wrestlers, and I want nothing but the best for them. Because they're talented dudes who can do more if ever given the right opportunity. Remember, Mansoor, when he was Mansoor and not Mansoor, was the pride of Saudi Arabia that every Saudi Arabia show, no matter who they put him in the ring with, he beat. He had like a 70 or 80 match winning streak because the only time you'd see him on TV is before and at Saudi shows where he'd win. Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember when Maxine was with Robert Stone and Von Wagner? Pepperidge Farm remembers. All right. Back to the NXT Championship match, because this match deserves some attention. Astrid, give me your thoughts on Grayson Waller's swan song from NXT.
I know. I definitely love their chemistry, though. It's like there's something that I was more excited than anything to be able to see this tonight because of that. I love like the little parts of like when Grayson came out and over did his stunner when Carmelo's doing his move like that, and the way he just did his elbow on the commentary table too. And I was like, holy crap! And taking a trick on top of it. It was like the little things that he would do during the match. And I was like, oh my god! I know he's not winning, but he's like really showing off here tonight. I feel like more than anything. But yeah, like the character and the stuff, I think was very fun to watch tonight. We already knew that Bella was not going to lose, but still, it was really, and even when you know how the winner and how it'll turn out, it was very entertaining, and definitely, I didn't want to stop watching these two.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of these guys deserve to be on the main roster and springboard into the Rolling Stone. Absolutely. Grayson Waller is star power, main roster, directly into either the IC or the US title picture. As soon as he gets drafted, I think you can pop him into either of those. Like, who wouldn't want to see Grayson Waller going up to Gunther and being like, oh, I don't respect the ring. I don't respect, like, come on. That is going to be fantastic. And then watching Grayson just get absolutely murdered by Gunther in the ring with those chops. Like, there's a lot of fun I could see in a match like that. Bobby Lashley versus Grayson Waller. And again, something I've pitched on a show before. The one thing I think Logan Paul could do really well is have a tag team. What better tag team partner for the social media superstar, the YouTuber extraordinaire, Astrid's favorite Puerto Rican wrestler, than Logan Paul teaming with Grayson Waller?
I just want at least one little interaction between him and The Miz, because it makes them the people of like they came in out of reality shows and people doubted them from the beginning because of their background and look of how where they are now. So I would like, if they don't get a match, at least some kind of interaction to like kind of say like we both have the same background and look where we are now. I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, but Carmelo Hayes versus Grayson Waller is a fantastic match. Grayson Waller does the smart thing right from the get-go. He throws a chair. He gets frustrated because he's not getting the better of Carmelo in the early match. And he takes a chair and he chucks it. And Melo catches it with one hand. Not the most clean catch, but it never hits the ground. He bounces it off his hand a bit, but catches it. And while the ref's distracted, Trick Williams goes to try to interfere. Trick gets hit with the chair a couple times, and it takes Trick out of the match. Grayson Waller proving how smart he is to get rid of the problem child of Trick Williams to be able to take on Carmelo, and then yells into the camera right before they go to commercial break, "No Trick, no title." I'm like, I know that's not true, but I love the idea that you can put that into people's minds, that Melo can't do it without Trick. He's done it without Trick numerous times, but I like that they give you that layer to the story. The match continues back and forth. That elbow through the table, and then instantly, right as Booker says, knowing how perfect it needs to be, how the littlest opportunity can get him the win, he immediately rolls Melo back into the ring to go ahead and try to get the 3. Both of them rolling out after they hit seemingly pseudo finishers. Waller had hit his finisher. That was his moment. Melo rolls about halfway across the ring to roll out of the ring. Fantastic. Melo hits one of his many signature moves, and Grayson Waller takes the powder on the outside. These guys just know exactly what they're going to do. Grayson Waller seemingly hurts his knee. I think it was selling. I don't think it's legit. We'll talk about potential legit knee injuries in a little while. But it obviously quickly sidetracks. Melo hits nothing but net and gets the 1-2-3. Melo grabs the mic right in the face of the camera and calls out Braun Breaker, and my heart broke a little bit as he says that he wants him in his turf in front of his people at Battlegrounds. Oh my God. That Braun Breaker walking into a hostile environment beyond recognition. I don't think he's ever walked into an arena that's going to hate him more than that little arena in Lowell is going to. Because those who don't know, Carmelo Hayes is from the Boston area. He's not from Boston, but he's from nearby. He grew up wrestling in places like Lowell. He grew up wrestling in other small towns in the area. He's been a champion in that area, wrestling in the smaller clubs there. This is his home. These are his people. The reason why Vic Joseph said after he won the championship, from Casanova to champion, is because his former indie name is Christian Casanova from these local indie shows. The dude is ready to come home. This crowd is going to pop massive for it, and I can't wait. We have a couple comments that came in while we were talking about that. Pretty Deadly will do some exciting things on the main roster. I agree. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory as a possible tag team excites me if it were to...
I still like Austin.
I'm not a huge Austin Theory fan, and since he's dropped the selfie gimmick, I don't know if it would work. He's become more serious lately, and since Austin Theory, when he was doing the selfie thing and with Vince McMahon, maybe that would have worked. I could see it. I wouldn't love it. I think there are much better things, like Astrid said. I think if you're going to team him with anybody, I think the Logan Paul tag team makes the most sense. Dara Amazing saying, I enjoyed that line from Casanova to champion. Like I said, it's Vic Joseph does his homework on the small things to know, to toss in these little itty-bitty things in matches. And I really enjoy that about Vic Joseph. I also really hate it when he does stupid things, like accidentally calling Dragunov D'Angelo. Because he did that on this show tonight, and that was annoying. We have the Roxanne promo. Astrid, did you want to go over any of this, or is it just Roxanne had a promo hyping up the main event?
I feel like the part that I really liked about this more than anything is like when she says, it's like a lot of girls that are around, like when I discovered WWE, the girls were like into like dolls and things like that. It's like I didn't have anything like that until I started watching WWE, and I was like, I love it because it reminds me back to like the little video package they had when she debuted that night with the video games. So that, and like she mentions, at least she mentioned AJ Lee at least tonight too. She mentioned Bailey, Lita, and the Bella Twins. I was like, she has to mention Mother AJ Lee in there somehow. But no, I love that little moment. And she said, I'm wearing little green balls here for the little girls that are in the audience, like I was at one point, and they had the look that I had that inspired them to become a wrestler. So I'm wearing this in honor of them tonight. And I feel like it was such a great touch to do something like that out of her. And I feel like it gave her more connection to the audience as well.
Yeah, I think it's great that they gave her this moment. Like, as soon as I saw this video package play, I'm like, oh, she's not winning. Oh, this is a video package that they're playing so that they can play it on Raw. Because I don't think she's being drafted night 1. I think she's going to be a night 2 draft pick on Raw. And I think this is a promo package that you play on Raw after she gets drafted, going into a commercial break, to explain to the crowd who she is, for those who might not know. It was a fun package. I do love that we had both of AJ Lee's little girls on television tonight, with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. I mentioned it to Astrid. I'm like, is it just me, or does Cora Jade's outfit tonight feel like she's just a taller AJ Lee?
Yeah. Plus, we had Indy too, which is kind of like one of her daughters too. So
yeah, but when I think of Indy, I think of go to Bailey. Same thing with Cora a little bit too, apparently lately.
Yeah.
But it was a great promo. We have a recap of the recent, as I put in my notes, JBBJ bullshit. We have Parrish in the comments saying, I want to see Seth Rollins make a stable with Mustafa Ali and Pretty... That's an interesting stable. I don't love it, but I definitely don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. As a version of a Fabulous for Words, I can get behind that. Definitely appreciate the women we were able to get extra... We'll talk about the time that the women got, because that's something that frustrated Astrid greatly. We'll talk about that when we get to the end of the show. I'm going to let Astrid's going to vent tonight. It's not going to be me for once. We're going to let Astrid vent.
Just don't put me in the single camera, please. That's it.
Fine. We had Joe Coffey and
Joe Gacy.
Joe Gacy and Joe. I thought I had it wrong. I'm like, Joe Coffey. I'm like, that's not his name. No, it is his name. It is actually his name. They're both Joe. It was Joe and Joe.
I love when they put the graphic at the same time, and I was like, oh, a pair of Joes. Huh?
Yes, it's a good old pair of Joes. Gacy's back there, and he wants to get a title match for the Dyad, which is extremely bad timing since the Dyad just said that they're basically sitting at home for the next 4 months. But, make do with what you can. They propose a match where if Joe Gacy beats Joe Coffey next week, that the Dyad will get a tag team title match. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So Joe Gacy's losing this match. What happens if they don't? Oh, the Dyad doesn't challenge the Gallus anymore? Yeah, that's fine. I can totally see that happening, since I don't think we're ever seeing them again on WWE television.
No.
Yes, a cup of Joes. Cup of Joes. There's nothing to this. Ava's there. Apparently Ava has new tattoos. I don't know if she's always had these tattoos, but they were the first time I ever saw them, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Things you know. You should see the notes that Astrid gets as I see these random things that I noticed during wrestling matches. Wait till we get to the main event and I tell you the one thing I noticed for that match. No, Ava will not fight for the NXT Tag Team titles. That will not happen. It will not. I refuse to allow that to happen.
But before you go though, there's a part when towards the end she tells Gacy, "Don't forget to get yours, like your title shot." And he's kind of like says like mine will come like in due time or something like that. He said to her too before they left.
Yeah, at that point I had already gotten up to go get a glass of water because I realized this promo was pointless. I'm sorry, it was. It's setting up a match next week, and other than that match, it's doing nothing.
Yeah.
The mixed tag match. I liked this. I know it's going to be a shock, but I liked this. The match was
Are you
really
okay?
good.
Are you
yeah,
okay?
I'm fine. I have very little problem admitting when I'm wrong about things. Uh-oh. HPC too sweet. Ugh, I almost puked. I want to know more about what almost made you puke. I'm very curious. Because honestly, this match wasn't that bad. Like, is it A+ quality? No, it's not. But for the most part, 3 of these 4 people aren't quality enough to give you A+ quality. Hell, the one guy who I think is A+ quality in this match probably can't give you A+ quality. And that's Josh Briggs. Who, by the way, looked fantastic tonight. Oh, the promo before the match. Okay.
That makes more sense.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay. Now I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, the promo before the match was awful. Astrid, go ahead and give me your thoughts on Fallon Henley and Josh Briggs versus Kiana and Mr. Brooks for the last time.
Can I just say, like I told you while we were watching, it's like, to me, the standout in this match was definitely Briggs. Definitely stood out more than anybody during this match. The way he was selling, the back and forth that he had with Brooks, and just like I feel like I seen him do things that he hadn't done before when they were the tag team together, which is very surprising. And I love the little parts of like Fallon, how fired up she was every time she was tagged in. So I was like, I love how every time they came in the ring, they gave it their all. The one thing that bothers me of Fallon though is like when she starts getting fired up, she starts grunting so loudly, and that's all you hear while she's wrestling. Like I would like that to be toned down a little bit, but other than that, and I was surprised to see Brooks in trunks. I felt like I was a totally different person when I first saw him. It's like, who the heck is this person here? It's not the one I know, at least. Yeah, it definitely surprised me. And it was weird to get used to see him in trunks too, and with the hair tied up too. That's another thing. But no, I feel like the match is better than I thought it was gonna be. I especially love the ending because they made me win tonight with my predictions.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I honestly didn't think this story was ever going to end, and in that case, I felt like it was a foregone conclusion that the heels were going to win. This was a really good match. Briggs obviously was a standout. They gave him a ton of time to shine as an absolute star. I didn't realize how much this little itty-bitty crowd in Florida loves Fallon Henley, or if they just packed it with her friends and family.
Yes.
But there were definitely some chants that I don't think we're going to hear at Battlegrounds if she's on the card. I don't think we're going to hear Yeehaw as a chant at Battlegrounds like we did tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Fallon's great. Yes, I do agree that her grunting is a bit Venus Williams and Serena Williams tennis loud. And that's going to be a problem, and she needs to tone it down. But at least this week, the girls killed it in ring. with the action, it felt like it all fit. They fit in perfectly. The finish of the match is nice, where Kiana's trying to help Jensen cheat. Jensen's willing to do the cheating. He's not afraid to be the bad guy. It doesn't work. He's distracted for his lady. He gets hit with the big, huge clothesline. And God, Briggs has such a great clothesline.
Yes.
I want him as a single star. Sorry, Jensen. I'm casting you off as soon as I can. For Yep. I guarantee you somebody on Etsy's already made that shit tonight because of that.
Yes, I loved it when she was about to hit Kiana. She goes, "You want a yeehaw, bitch?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm dying here."
Yeah,
I love it.
I was messaging Astrid back and she goes, "Yeehaw, bitch, LOL." And I'm just like, "Yep." I saw that one and I instantly thought of you. Yep. This was such a satisfying conclusion to this story. Please
Finally.
tell me it's a fucking conclusion. Please, for the love of God, let this be a conclusion.
We've been covering this for like a year and a half now, I think, at this point.
We were on the other channel when I cut the pieces of the corny pickup lines videos that I dropped randomly.
Yeah, we'll be here for 6 months now.
Yeah, and we've been doing this for 6 months. Well, you've been doing this for 6 months. I've been doing it for about 4.5.
Yeah.
But no, it's been fun. I'm glad the story is over. I'm excited to see. Yes, Dar Amazing. Let this storyline die.
Please.
Kiana tells him that she never loved him, and I honestly got a text message from my mother going, "Are you okay?" when I yelled, "Yeah!" Because I was so excited that she was done with him, because I'm like, it's finally over.
Well, she went to slap him first, and he stopped her.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I thought you loved me." Yeah, he's like, "I thought you loved me." She goes, "I never loved you." Like the facial expression that he had was priceless too. I love that.
He's so brokenhearted, and you just see Briggs just grab him on the shoulder. You don't see Briggs, you just see like the tips of his fingers on his shoulder. And Jensen just sort of falls under his shoulder, and it's just...
And the way he kisses his forehead when he's hugging him too.
Yeah, it's like, people don't understand. Like, sometimes dudes just need a cry. Sometimes dudes just need another dude to be like, look, it's gonna be okay. And you have your brothers there, the people that have been there for you through thick and thin, that are just gonna be there and be okay. And it's okay to have those moments. And you just have Fallon in the back. And you just have her watching on, and she's got a smile on her face, as now she's got her boys back. There was a crowd in the side that I'm here for Sebastian, by the way. As I put up, well, next week we'll finally see that Sebastian guy. Or not. We still might. Like, don't worry. Don't put it past NXT to keep this garbage going longer. I don't put it past them. Yeah. But I'm going to celebrate like this is over, hoping that they at least listen to the show, see the celebration, and just ignore it. They won't ever see the show. Nobody who works for NXT will ever see the show, except maybe Javier Bernal, who, by the way, was in the video package at the beginning of the show, getting chased by Dabakato.
Loved it.
Our man, Javier Bernal. Okay. Now we get into Astrid's rant. So at this point, we thought that, Astrid thought that we're getting ready for the main event. She was very excited. I got a message saying women's main event coming up next. She was very excited for this women's main event. I will tell you, we got a Dragon Lee promo. We got a Scripps Bray Wyatt video package. We got an Oma Femi video package and a match. We got Gigi Dolan doing a promo after stealing Vic's headset. We got a Wesley promo after a Gulak and Dempsey promo. And then we got the main event. Astrid, complain about all of the filler before the women's main event match.
I really just thought it was gonna be the indie promo, since we had Tiffany and Roxanne already. So I thought we were gonna get some kind of indie promo, and then the match itself, because it was what, like 9:50, I think, close to it, maybe. Like it was like about that time.
At that point, it was about 9:40 when
yeah, it was like close to like almost 10 o'clock. So I'm thinking, oh, the girls are next, and then first we get the Dragon Lee interview, and I was like, okay, sure. And then I think once they hit the Opa match, I was like, why is this happening and not the girls? And I'm like, how many times, how much time are the girls gonna get tonight, if anything? And then I kept like going back to my notes and like thinking, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 10 things happened before the main event. I was like, what the hell? And everything was just backstage. Like the only thing what happened in the ring was one match and that's it. But really, like everything that happened in between could have happened before the match started. Why?
Yep, I agree. Dragon Lee cuts a promo partly in Spanish, partly in English. I'm excited for it. I don't understand half of what he said, but I'm excited to see what comes of it. Because it sounds like we're getting Dragon Lee versus Noam Dar for the Heritage Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what we're headed to, I'm fine with it. Because that's going to be fun. And if that match just so happens to end up in Lowell, like, I'm okay with that. Like, seeing Dragon Lee wrestle live? Yeah, sure. I've bought my ticket already, but, you know, I'm in. I'll do it. God, the scripts... We're finally getting this match to end the bullshit next week.
Is it going to end it, though?
I'm praying it's mask versus mask, and I'm just praying they both lose. So they both have to unmask. So we can get rid of the Axiom character and just bring back A-Kid. Like, we have Noam Dar here now, who's a Heritage Cup champion. We have former Heritage Cup champion Wolfgang in Gallus. We have former Heritage Cup champion in Masked Man Axiom when he was A-Kid. And I want to say he was, if he wasn't the first, he was the second or third Heritage Cup champion. But God, I cannot wait for that match to be over. So hopefully this feud is over and one or both of them gets unmasked.
Yes, please.
Yes, Tyler Bate was one. I know there's been multiple other ones. I was trying to think of ones that were on the NXT roster. You're right. Tyler Bate is on the NXT roster currently. I don't think he's long for the NXT roster. But he is currently still there for now. Yep, 400 Heritage Tag Team Champion. There we go. A-Kid did defeat Tyler Bate to become the champion for the championship for the Heritage Cup. It's a big old cup. I like it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I like me a good championship belt, and maybe at the end of the show we'll go ahead and talk about that new championship belt because I have thoughts. But I love the Heritage Cup because it reminds me of. I'm a hockey fan. I'm a born and bred Bostonian. I watch the NHL playoffs right now. I got to watch them tomorrow night. My Boston Bruins to hopefully get through the first round. But a cup is always something great. And having that big old wooden trophy with a cup just feels good. We're going to skip the Oma Femi match just for a minute because I want to do all these promos. And then I want to talk about the last two matches because I think that the matches are better and worth talking about more than these promos. I just want to rattle them off real quick. Gigi Dolan, after the Oba Femi match, goes ahead and steals Vic's headset and cuts a promo on JC Jane saying, you want to talk about all the things I told you? You want to talk about my past? That's fine. You want to talk about how I left my brother to give him a better life so that I could make money to get him out of the hell that I was in? That's fine. Next week, he's going to be ringside when I kick your face in. So apparently, he's going to be ringside next week. Again, I think Gigi Dolan's being called up in the draft, and I think we get Last Woman Standing in Lowell. I don't think this story ends next week, but I also don't think that either of these women, one of these women, are going to be gone from the brand coming up. Yep. I don't think they're both sticking around. I honestly don't care which gets drafted because I think both of them are talented enough to be drafted. Like, don't think that I think it's one of those things where I don't care who gets drafted. I don't have a preference. If I lose JC Jane, I'll be happy that she's not on my program anymore and she's on the main roster. But at the same time, if Gigi's gone, I'll be sad that she's gone, but at least she'll be on the main roster where she's having more matches and potentially learning more and developing more, because I think she needs a little bit more development, but I think she can't do that where she is. I think some of these women have hit the max of what they can do in developmental without people like Sarah Amato around, with only people like Finley and Santana Garrett in the PC. I think you're lacking a female presence down there. You're lacking a veteran female who can really put these girls through the paces. I know Miko Satomura is there and she's coaching there, and that's fine. But I think she brings something entirely different to this crop of women. And I think this crop of women needs a Becky Lynch or a Bayley or a Charlotte Flair, to an extent, a Shayna Baszler. Women who can teach them in the ring and get them to where they need to be. And I think with those four on the main roster, I don't think you have to worry about it. Mark Talks Wrestling says Gigi's going in the draft. I agree. I think she's the one that you're going to draft if you draft either. I would have time for Gigi Nikki Cross tag team. I was watching a Fightful interview today where Fightful Sean Ross Sapp interviewed Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, and I only watched because it was Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Because, and their voices make me melt, so it's fine. But they threw out the idea of a 4-women Scottish faction with having Nikki Cross and Piper Niven with the Unholy Union. And I was just like, yes, I want this. Please give this to me. I really, really like this. Yes, Vince has said that he really likes both of them. So, but that's the thing. We don't know if they're going or not. While Vince has some control over creative, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be able to tell who's on the roster and who's not. I think there's a lot of wiggle room there, and I think that we're going to see that going forward with this draft, where I think we're going to start to get the idea of separating the Vince guys from the Triple H guys.
Yeah, but I just say though, it's bittersweet because I would have preferred it would have been Gigi and JC together, being that we need more tag teams in the main roster. So seeing them just like whether they go like both of them or even just one of them is gonna be bittersweet to see though.
I'll also put this out there. It's not unlike Vince to not give a shit about NXT booking. Because if you remember, in the middle of a blood feud, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano were brought up to the main roster, and they were booked as a tag team because screw NXT booking, I don't give a shit. So just remember that if Vince decides to veto some things, we might see Toxic Attraction back together again in 3 weeks. God, that would be so bad. We also have Gulak and Dempsey backstage saying absolutely nothing of importance other than Wesley is running himself into the ground by having so many title matches to prove that he is the champion because he has an inferiority complex. Great idea for a promo. Great idea that it comes from these two guys. It is the perfect back and forth. Gulak is going to have a better match than Dempsey had last week, but I don't want to see Dempsey versus Wesley again. I'll take Gulak versus Wesley all the time, but do not give me Dempsey versus Wesley a bunch. We also then see Wesley after that promo backstage, and Tyler Bate comes in, and he says that he wants to be in his corner next week because he knows that there's going to be that Dempsey's going to be out there with Gulak. Wesley accepts. Yeah. You couldn't pay attention because Tyler Bate had his shirt off, could you?
Did he though? I don't remember if he did.
He did not have a shirt on.
Really?
All right. Yeah.
I didn't notice.
We're gonna roll it back now to Obafemi. Oh boy, Obafemi is a big old boy.
Woof, holy cow.
We go back to one of the things that was said earlier by Dara Amazing when we were talking about Oba in the beginning. Don't forget, Oba lifted up a goddamn sofa. Yes, he did, and he threw it a decent amount. And sofas are heavy.
No, I didn't even say anything. Ay.
Barry says that Wesley and Tyler Bate looked like a tag team together. I agree. I don't necessarily disagree that wouldn't be a bad tag team. I think that they could mesh. I just don't think Tyler Bate's long for NXT. I think next week might be his last week in NXT. But Obafemi, speaking of people who are hopefully long for NXT, because I want to talk about this guy for the next 6 to 8 months. I have a feeling I won't be. I have a feeling he'll be called up really quick. This dude is fantastic. I loved him. The dude is just... He's 6'6", 300 pounds. He looks like he's 6'6", 600 pounds. The dude is just massive. He is so much... He feels so much bigger than Odyssey Jones. And I want to say Odyssey Jones and him are roughly the same size. I think Odyssey's probably 2 or 3 inches smaller and about 70 pounds heavier maybe. But I totally think that Obafemi is a really raw talent ready to emerge. Because he had a fantastic match with Oro Mensah here. He threw Ora Mensa around, showing off the power. Ora Mensa got some good stuff in too. Like he got to really get to Obafemi here. But Oba's just too big, too strong, and just absolutely battered him. That power bomb at the end. That was the exclamation point. Yeah, I'm all in for Obafemi. Do you have any doubts on Obafemi right now?
No, all I could think was like, holy cow. What? And when I was there, I was like, what did I just watch? It just, dude is impressive. And he just, that was, I thought at first that the graphic had said next week. And then when I saw him come out, I was like, I thought the graphic said next week. What the heck?
It did.
Okay.
It was, I thought, it was the same graphic from last week.
Yeah, I thought I was dreaming at first. Like, then I saw him coming out. I was like, wait, did I read this wrong? And it said next instead of next week. But,
It's great. He was fantastic. I really enjoyed him. I had a ball with this. I'm looking forward to his... It's the first time that they've debuted somebody. Like, let's talk about this. People that they've debuted recently, and we don't count people like Dragon Lee and people who we already know. We're talking about unknown people who we really have to... Mark, I'm going to get to that comment because I don't like doing that. I agree. He's built a lot of the same way, and they're pushing him the same way. Yeah. All right, well, we'll do it now. Obafemi to be the next Mark Henry. Those are some big-ass shoes to fill. Like, pun intended. Those are some big shoes to fill, being the next Mark Henry. And for those who don't remember, who only remember Hall of Pain Mark Henry, for those of you who weren't there for the beginning, there's a lot of bad Mark Henry before the Nation of Domination. Mark Henry was brought up, was in a match with Jerry Lawler, and then was sent to Canada to train with the Hearts because he was so bad that he was almost... We'll get to that too, Parrish. He was almost fired, and he was sent to the Hearts as a last resort to get his weight under control and to get his wrestling skill up as he came over as an Olympic powerlifter. Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
But Obafemi is definitely a quality talent. I can see him being a version of Mark Henry. I don't want to see the next Mark Henry. I want to see the first Obafemi. But if you put him in that same line, I'm okay with it. I wonder if they might stick him with Apollo, move up to the main roster, feud with Omos and everything. Maybe. I don't think that they're going to rush him. Like, I jokingly say that we might not see him for long. NXT's been very good about not rushing much talent, with the exception of Raquel Rodriguez now on the main roster. With the exception of her, I don't think they've rushed a talent to the main roster in a while. I can't remember the last time they did. Like rushing them through NXT. So I think that we're going to be safe. Who's the next Mae Young? I don't know. I'm sure there's a wonderfully talented women's wrestler who can be the next star of the women. Honestly, it's probably... I know you say this as a joke, but it's probably Charlotte Flair. I know she doesn't have the comedy chops that Mae Young had, but for those who don't know who Mae Young was beforehand, Mae Young was one of the best women's wrestlers when women's wrestling was a dirty word. When you didn't put women's wrestling on your posters because it wasn't going to sell, because people wouldn't go watch women's wrestling. Paris says Natalia. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to catch up on some of these comments before we get into the main event. Also, fun fact, Astrid, Wendy Chu, played cornhole with John Oliver Jr., Nathan Frazier. That was true. It did happen. It was in the opening hype package. It was. There was a comment I missed before. Yeah, it's right here. If Bate is to move upward, would you guys be cool seeing him with Pete Dunne and Bate reforming British strong style, but add Ridge Holland? Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to replacing Trent Seven with Ridge Holland. I think that would be great, as long as it lets Sheamus do his own thing. I just don't want to ruin Sheamus. Whatever we do with British strong style or Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, as long as it doesn't ruin Sheamus, I'm fine. Because I think Sheamus is at the peak of his career right now. There's nothing better he can do. and I don't want to ruin that.
Don't forget, we got the video from the NXT Anonymous too.
Yeah. Sol Ruka got attacked backstage by random in the. I think that's the parking lot. I think
she was going outside.
Mm-hmm. She was going. Although she wasn't going outside. She was walking by the doors, and somebody pulled her outside. But again, man, that parking lot, you know.
Yeah, put them to the enemy territories. There you go.
And there it is. Chris Parrish reiterating my point. It's to allow Sheamus to be. I agree. If that's what the point is, then it's all good. But before we get to the main event, I do want to thank our sponsors, Rogue Energy. Go to rogueenergy.com or scan that QR code right next to Astrid. There she is. She's pointing to it now. And you can get 10% off your order when you go to OLE Pods. When you go to Rogue Energy and use the promo code OLE Pods. Damn, I almost had that. They have all kinds of fantastic flavors. They have new flavors coming up all the time. I know Parrish, I believe, likes the strawberry kiwi or the blue kiwi or something like that. I'm partial to the watermelon. It's fantastic. It's my favorite. I get one probably once every month or so to make sure that I get my Rogue Energy to keep my energy up. Because unlike some people on this show, I don't resort to Red Bull to keep my energy up.
Who?
Yeah, who? But again, go to rogueenergy.com or scan the QR code and use OLE Pods to get 10% off your order. And speaking of Olay and all the wonderful things, you can go to all of our wonderful channels with twitch.tv/ourlocalestablishment, to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ourlocalestablishment. You can email us if you want to get in touch with us at olepodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can go to our Twitter or our Instagram at olepodcast to find out when all the shows are taking place and everything else that's going on there. But you know what? You know what's even a better place to find out what's going on with OLE? Watching the calendar right now. Parrish said, we caught you drinking your Red Bull. It's not Rogue. You know what, Ashley? Yeah. We're gonna see if we can get the people from Rogue Energy to go ahead and send you a case of cans to go ahead and sponsor. That was smooth. Yeah, it's a great transition, isn't it? Segue. Parrish says they got to really teach people at PC.
We got to make it a class in the PC.
No, we just got to get security in the parking lot. We have security all over
There is no security.
No, but we have security all over the NXT arena.
Do we though?
Yes, because people get attacked in the parking lot more than they get attacked at ringside. And there's security all around the ring. But there's no security in the parking lot, and people get attacked left, right, and center. There needs to be security out there. Also, nice wings, Astrid. I don't know. Do you have? I don't know if you have wings somewhere in the background that I missed.
The Red Bull gives you wings.
Oh, Red Bull gives you wings. Okay. We get the main event, and this was a really fun match until everything, including the crowd, stopped. So we're gonna start in the middle and work our way around the match. Tiffany Stratton goes to the top while both Indy Hartwell and Roxanne are on the outside. And she does a very basic dive. It's a flip dive, but it's nothing super special. It's nothing super difficult. She lands it just fine. Both girls seemingly catch her just fine. But Indy's leg gets caught underneath her. Yeah. And it bends. And it bends bad. and not in a way it's supposed to bend.
Mm-mm.
At that point on, Indy Hartwell's on the outside of the ring, getting looked at. She's immediately taking the tape off of her boot and trying to get her boot off. So you know things are bad because she's instantly coming out of the match on her own, before doctors are even there, trying to get some comfort for the leg. The match continues. And I love how as soon as that happens, Tiffany looks to the outside. And the first thing she does is she goes ahead and throws Roxanne into the corner and pushes up against her and starts talking to her. And they start calling the what I call the rain delay portion of this match, where they go into what do we do mode, and they just slow everything down. It's a bunch of rest holds, but it doesn't. If you were watching it and you missed the Indy Hartwell injury, it wouldn't look out of place. You could tell what they were doing. You can tell why. But, as Mark says, props to Tiffany and Roxanne for carrying on with the match.
Yes.
The ref deserves props as well for talking them through it. I agree. Now, the match falls apart a bit when this happens, because Tiffany Stratton is not ready to call a match on her own. Roxanne Perez, as talented as she is and as trained as she is with Booker T, is not ready to call a title match in the ring on her own unplanned. And you can tell it's unplanned because we see the finish of the match, so we know what the finish was supposed to be the entire time. And these girls are like, what do we do? Neither of us are supposed to win this match. But yes, props to the referee, props to Tiffany, props to Roxanne.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple clumsy spots because both girls are trying their best to make it work. And they're just having a tough time making sure that each knows without literally yelling and screaming spots in the ring. To not pull a Natalya to call spots out loud so loud that the camera picks them up. They're trying to do their best to hide it, and the match falls apart a bit. It doesn't help that the Indy Hartwell injury takes the crowd entirely out of the match.
Yes.
Half the crowd is watching Indy Hartwell on the outside until they move her to the back. And as soon as they move her to the back, the crowd focuses on the match and they get into it. But what I will say about this match beforehand, and I'm going to let Astrid talk after this crowd was into this match from the moment that this match started. The crowd, unlike the other ladies match on this show with Cora Jade and Lyra Valkyria, the crowd was into this. They were making noise. And again, the indie thing brought them out of it. But they started to come back into it towards the finish. And at the end of the match, they were back. But it took them a bit to get there. Astrid, talk about the women's title match here.
Yeah, I was like Mark was saying, I do give props to everybody involved in here because you can tell the girls are just doing anything they can to give Indy that moment to get back in the ring, knowing none of them are supposed to win this match. We do have that. More than anything, that part, like you mentioned, is like when people are focused on Indy, it gets really quiet. So it's like that's another thing that the girls have to be careful about. Like if they do call spots in the ring, they have to be careful because it was super quiet when this was happening. Like you can tell people were not focused on what was happening in the ring, more focused on if Indy was going to be able to return or not. I feel like it did take there was a big gap in there, and the crowd was silent, and I feel like it took away from the match, unfortunately, because I feel like even myself, I'm like looking over, I'm like, is Indy still in the corner or not? Is she coming back? And the girls are wrestling, and you can see they kind of chant a little bit for Roxanne. That is very, very small, and it's not even that loud. So you can tell they're not even like concentrating on this, like their minds are elsewhere at this point. But yeah, it's like I was hoping she would come back, and I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna call and like give the title to somebody else, knowing that maybe she cannot come back to finish the match. That was my first thought. Depending how bad it is, I love having her come in here and still like be a fighting champion, and even through this and still fight through this. And even the mention is like, oh, she's not 100%. I was waiting, but I know this probably too fresh. It was like maybe for like a Tiffany to focus on the injury, but I kind of figured it's too fresh, and you don't know how bad it is to really have anybody keep hating in that certain spot. But yeah, I just think about it. I was like, oof. I can imagine that they had to be given more time to actually have time to Indy come back and do her and the finish. But there was some kind of parts here that were a little bit rough with the crowd and everything. That part just definitely took it away from me, unfortunately. But I give them props because I know they did what they could do. When we're thinking about this is a live show, there's something they had to call on the fly as it was happening with In until she returned, and she was able to do that finish there. But yeah, it was not something I expected to happen tonight when it happened. It's like I didn't notice the injury at first. I know as you messaged me, I was watching the replay, and that's when I caught it. Um, yeah, it just reminded me of what happened to Dante not too long ago during the show too. Just it wasn't great seeing it later on either. So that's the only part I don't want to relive that.
Yeah. I agree. Mark had a great comment. Roxanne in this match looked like a star. I agree. She looks like a star in most of the matches that she wrestles. I don't actually say she outdid both of them when they were all healthy. I think her and Tiffany were at the same level. I think Tiffany has grown leaps and bounds to the point where she feels like a legitimate champion. The girl who 6-8 months ago felt like she was just there and being annoying and we didn't have anything going. She now has a character. She has a star-making entrance. Her ring gear tonight looked like a champion's ring gear. She was on fire tonight. And it was midway through the match where before the injury when I texted you and goes, oh God, they're booking this match in a way that Tiffany's getting all the spots early. At the end of this match, she's going to hit that moonsault, and then Indy's going to get her out of the way and steal the pin.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened. We do have Parrish, who is a wrestler, so I want to go to his comment here. Was this legit work to give Indy that underdog yet warrior-type vibe to help get her more over the fan? I agree. It's hard to tell which way this goes. Was this incredibly well-selling by Indy, or is this an injury? I don't know either way, so until I know better, I'm going to treat it as an actual injury. Just for the fact that I don't want to think everything's a work. I'd rather think things are shoot. And then, oh, it's a work? Great. I'm glad she's healthy. I'm glad she's not hurt. If she's selling the underdog story, my God, the end of that match, she did really good selling then. Because that was an awful finish. Because poor Indy can barely walk, let alone try to run and do any of her offense. Yeah, they didn't want anybody touching Indy as soon as she got back in that ring. They were all told, do not touch her, just let her do what she needs to do, and let her get the win. I think this was great. I was hoping for Tiffany Stratton to win here. I think Indy Hartwell deserves a call up to the main roster. I think the best thing you can do with Indy is putting her with Candice. As you said before, Indy Hartwell is fine. Her promo tonight was good. But the fact that this was her best promo in 2.5 years on this roster, when you don't count the things that she did with the Way, it's pretty sad. Like, it's pretty sad that this was the climax of her time in NXT. All the promos she's cut. And that this little backstage promo and the promo she cut after she won the title is the best that she's done. I think she needs that main roster because I think, like I said with earlier with Gigi, I just think that there's no more growing they can do in NXT. And I think that they need those bigger stars to grow. I think Roxanne Perez comes back, does not come back to the NXT. I think this was her swan song. I think she's main roster bound again. I think she ends up being drafted on Monday. I don't think she gets drafted the first night. I think she gets drafted towards the end. Like that Carmella type pick that they did a couple years ago where Carmella was the last pick of the draft and she's crying and Bayley hugs her. I think you could bring that back with somebody like Roxanne. It would really make for a good story. For her to be the last pick in the draft on Monday Night Raw. Paris says, WWE bring back the Way, but instead we get Theory. But instead of Theory, we get Champ. Yeah, anything's possible.
Now we're talking.
Bring back DIY. Bring back Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Like, there's a lot of potential bringing her up to the main roster. I want to... want to go back to Mark Talks Wrestling. For me, Tiffany's best work would be on the main roster, but you can tell they're going to go with Indy versus Tiffany as she wasn't. I agree, but the match at Battleground is going to be Indy versus Tiffany, which means I get to see Tiffany live, which means I'm going to be happy because I'm going to get to see my girl Tiffany live. If I can't have Nikita Lyons, you got to give me Tiffany. Come on, NXT, you got it. Do it yourself. That is the way. That's always good. And Daphne comes in saying, one of Tiffany's best matches was with Windy. She held her own tonight. I'm over the reactions in the end. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that everybody in this match did the best they could do with the odd circumstances that came in with it. There was definitely some issues going on in the match that led to what was going on. But this match could have been better. But again, it's a freak injury that made this match as bad as it was. You can't take that away from the talent. Injuries happen. However, hindsight 2020. Do you think NXT wishes that they would have swapped these matches around and had Indy in the middle of the show and had Mello and Braun close the show with that big ass spear through the side of the barricade?
That's a tough one. Because if it wasn't for the injury, I feel like this match would have been. It was a great main event as it was. If you take out that part, so that's the only thing that.
That's why I'm saying hindsight being 2020, knowing what we know now, I think I would switch the match. But you can't know. The same thing with Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley versus each other with the tag team match. You had no way of knowing that Charlotte and Rhea Ripley were going to go out there and steal the goddamn show at WrestleMania and be like, take that tag match. You just had no way. This is the way. Yes, a Mandalorian reference. This is the way. Speaking of the way, Astrid, what is the way that we can all see you this week?
That was terrible. You can find me on my Twitter, like it's down below, and my Instagram. You can find me again taking over with you next week, and then Thursdays making an impact with Cody. You can find my NXT review on the weekends on Women's Wrestling Talk. And if you haven't yet, you can watch Killer Cuts on OLE's YouTube because we're going to go do Chapter 3 soon. We're going to talk about the movie Sick. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on Peacock. So if you want to watch it before and then tune in with us, that'll be perfect. There you go.
I don't do horror, Astrid. No horror.
I don't care.
No Killer Cuts. You can find me on Twitter at edfries12584. Someday, I promise, you'll find me on Twitch at edfries2002. I swear. You can also find me this Saturday. This Saturday, me and my friend Chris Parrish are going to be starting GM mode. And now I have to change the brand because I don't have the logo in here. Hold on. Wait a minute. Everything's changing for a minute. Right here. My GM mode, 2K23. Wrestle Draft comes back. Me versus Chris Parrish in Wrestle Draft. It is going to be fun. This Saturday we'll be having the draft episode, and we'll be having the first week so we can show you what's going to be happening. After that, every other week will be a live show. All of the live shows will be our premium live events, and all of the in-between shows where we do, like, so for the first one will be weeks 2, 3, and 4. Those will be pre-recorded so that we can go ahead and make sure that when we come to you live with something entertaining, it's just going to be something fun, something exciting, and it's going to be those premium live events that really give us the opportunity to have some fun. But we've been looking forward to that for a while. Me and him have been practicing. We've created our own GMs. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We still haven't decided which brands we're taking, but you can find out that this Saturday at noon on Wrestle Draft as we go ahead and go live with that. And obviously, I am going to make it to the Hall of Fame before Chris Parrish because, well, obviously. I mean, come on. But with that being said,
there you go.
First time I said it tonight.
No, that's the second one.
I have been Ed Fries. This has been Astrid Pizarro. We have taken over, but now it's time to let you go. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Everyone is watching me when I'm coming around. fingers, man.